Okay, so what is some of the research? And again, this is really just highlights. School gardens promote academic achievement. And one of the first studies in this connection was Lieberman and Hootie, and this was actually environmental study, but it had very much the same kind of pedagogy that we use for school gardens. And it was very extensive. It was nationwide. It was like 14 schools, a lot of different dimensions of analyses for this. And it was one of the first that really made that connection between experiential education, hands-on education, and academic achievement. And it showed that the students getting the environmental education, experiential education outperformed the control group on the standardized tests. So this kind of thing is really important for educators and for administrators on a range of academic areas. And in addition, it developed, they showed that it developed reasoning, cognitive skills, reduced discipline problems, and improved attendance, which is also really nice for teachers to know. The Murphy study that was done, he was in Harvard, and he did it for the Center for Ecoliteracy, is also very well known. And this was unusual because, well, number one, it was edible schoolyard, which is not particularly replicable because there's been, the connection with Alice Waters, so a lot of money. But I think the model is really interesting. Again, there were several dimensions that were being studied. There were a lot of different controls in different ways across grade levels and across age groups and so forth. And there were never any measures or indicators that had been set up or established for a whole systems approach, to looking at a whole system in a school. And this was an attempt at a whole system approach to education. There's a lot of data in this study, but basically the food system students showed significant gains, again, in their overall GPA and in specific study areas. They showed a greater increase in the ecoliteracy scores, and that isn't particularly surprising since they were getting a lot of education in that area. But one thing that came out of it that was interesting was that those students that had the higher ecoliteracy scores were positively correlated with increased consumption of fruits and vegetables. So that's a really, this is a really cool thing that some of these surprising results can come out of these studies that are these are very much mixed method studies. Science is the area that there's been most work done on in terms of the academic area, and Clemmer's study in 2005, a large sample, traditional classroom versus garden-based experiential approach, again, higher scores and higher levels of learning, synthesizing, and evaluating problems. So higher thinking, higher cognitive thinking, and several others, a couple of others are mentioned here, but they're junior master gardener curriculum with very similar gains in the science area. The next most logical connection is to health and nutrition, and school gardens have been shown to promote health and nutrition, gains in health and nutrition, and we're all familiar with the deplorable, as somebody used that word yesterday, I really love that, deplorable statistics about overweight and obesity, and it really is sad. When one project that we were involved in at the beginning, there was a student who could not walk one lap around a track. Fortunately, by the end of the project, he could. But it's very, it's very, very concerning. And school gardens are that absolute direct connection between growing food and getting involved in the growing of food and harvesting and eating and improving attitudes towards health. And one of the big studies, the one that we cite a lot, was by Jennifer Morris and Sherry Zeidenberg-Schur at UC Davis in 2002. And again, this is really more on the controlled side of the type of study, where there was a nutrition-only group, there was a gardening and nutrition education group, and a control group that didn't get any of either of those. And what she found, or what they found, was that for the combination, it was the combination of the gardening and the involvement with gardening and nutrition that showed the most significant gains and the most really impressive results. And nutrition knowledge, this was for fourth graders, preferences for certain vegetables. They only had certain vegetables that were in the study. But also not just in the garden, but when they were outside of the school context, they still indicated preference for those vegetables. And this is one of the few studies that has shown you know, sort of the connection over to the families and to outside of the school context. And in the follow-up, they did a 6-month follow-up, and that implied some lasting effects. So this was really important for that reason. Another one that's more recent that's very similar is Markesteyn Ratcliffe, and the numbers here are really impressive. That's what's really great about this is that the numbers, this was again for the garden and nutrition group, the number of servings of fruits and vegetables combined more than doubled from 1.93 servings a day to 4.5 servings a day. So, but it was the combination. It was like, you know, both the hands-on and the education. This is, you know, kids involved in cooking, directly cooking in the classroom, and then there was a group of food lessons, and there actually was a group of a combination as well. And again, this involved parents. It was really, you know, a lot of different dimensions to this study. And the cooking group overall higher on preferences and knowledge, and lower on plate waste, which implied higher consumption. You know, there was less left over after they finished their meals. One of her conclusions was that actual cooking experiences and eating with peers combined with cognitive learning is a promising approach. And again, it's this combination of hands-on and cognitive. But she also mentioned in here that this was not a randomized study, and one of the suggestions that she had was that some program or study like this be replicated with a larger randomized group. Environmental, this is going to be really quick, but environmental understanding, project-based learning deepens the understanding of natural systems, and you can go to the CSGN website to see some of these studies. Definitely, you know, just a matter of scale. The kids get up close, they're looking at things so they're focused, you know, they're very engaged, and it carries over. You can see it, you can see their enthusiasm, they just, you know, get really excited. And this is something, again, that we know intuitively. There are several studies that have shown that this has been true. And in the personal development and behavior area, a lot of the earliest studies about garden-based learning were in the area of self-esteem and behavior and sort of personal development. Certainly they've showed that increased self-esteem, reduced discipline problems, pride and ownership. You know, whenever you're involved in something that's real and hands-on, it has a very real and significant effect. This is a project that's in Sacramento High School, Grant High School, and it's a combination school garden and community garden with, it's near a Hmong community, so there's a sort of a collaboration going on. And it's not only the garden, they have a lot of entrepreneurial efforts that they've been involved in over the last few years. They're selling those flowers, they're selling salsas, they're involved in processing. The kids have gotten very, very involved and very, you know, self-driven and self-determined. It's like their own projects about learning about processing and so forth. It's a really fantastic project.